Hi, everybody, and welcome to Unified, a podcast feed from First Church Belmont Unitarian Universalist. We'll be sharing sermons and stories, especially thematic content made new every week. We're so glad you're here, and for more information about who we are and opportunities to grow and deepen, swing by the church on Sundays or check out our website at uubelmont.org. And for now, enjoy this new content.
One of my very best friends in the whole world and I are both raised Unitarian Universalists. This means a lot of different things to her and to I. We can brew the perfect amount of coffee for 50 people. We both have had a coexist bumper sticker on our cars. We share a little distrust of authority. We both get very excited about a well-detailed committee agenda. And we both have very deep beliefs about what it means to belong to a community like this. One of those is that she and I are both very used to the practice of covenant, a practice that we share here in Unitarian Universalist communities of making aspirational promises to one another and trying our best to live up to them, knowing that we will not always, and we rely on each other to remind us what those promises are and invite each other back into them. A practice that requires placing our trust in each other as supported by those promises. This practice of covenant we inherited from our Jewish and Christian faith ancestors in their covenants of a relationship between the people and God we now live out with one another. Both my friend and I have belonged to covenantal communities our whole lives, congregations, the denomination, small groups. So, when this beloved friend and I met after a while of loving each other and learning from each other and becoming good friends, we decided that we wanted our own set of principles, our own agreements within our relationship. Now, our culture offers us a script for how to do this in romantic relationships, wedding vows, etc., but it offers us less by way of platonic committed friendship. So we decided to lean on the resources from the faith tradition that we shared, and we decided to covenant our friendship. These tiny UU nerds cannot be stopped, I tell you what. We scheduled ourselves a meeting, we put together an agenda, well detailed, and we brainstormed practical and aspirational guidelines for how we wanted to be in relationship with one another. We determined the values that we wanted to have at the heart of our relationship. Then we wrote up our covenant of our friendship in a Google document. We shared it between our emails and we docu-signed it. It was a little bit silly, but it was very, very sweet. Now, this was years ago, but we have relied on this covenant many times since then as something to fall back on, something to support us, as we grow together and alongside one another, as we adapt in a changing world as changing people. Recently, I was reminded of this friendship covenant because I was preparing to go to my hairdresser. And I had a very strong feeling that perhaps I would look great with straight across bangs. So I had lunch with my beloved friend the day before my haircut, and I said, hey, I've been thinking about getting straight across bangs. What do you think? In my experience, it's wise to run one's dramatic hair decisions by one's friends beforehand. At first, she said, yeah, whatever you want. I'm sure it would look great. And then she paused and she said, now, I'm pretty sure our covenant does not allow me to let you get bangs. What? I don't remember that. What are you talking about? That can't be right. So we pulled up the Google document shared with our emails docu-signed, And sure enough, one of our covenantal promises is line item number 11. Martha and Abby will support each other's hair, piercing, and tattoo choices unless it is, parentheses, all caps, really bad. And then we have an obligation to, all caps, interfere. Well, I don't think this applies in this situation, I told her. And she pointed out to line item 11 addendum A, which stated, Abby is not to let Martha get bangs no matter how heartbroken she is. Right. There it was, written in the Google document. Now, I had forgotten about addendum A, but Abby had not. And she upheld this part of our friendship covenant, and I stand here today before you bangs free, unfortunately, due to the covenantal promises I have made in my committed relationships. But Abby and I were looking at this covenant together, and we got to thinking that there were some sections that no longer served us, that perhaps needed to be updated. We had made these promises long ago, and we were different then. Our world was different then. I will tell you, when we first drafted this covenant, I had been recently heartbroken, and I was a little at risk for making some strange and erratic hair decisions that might lead to potentially regrettable style choices. At the time, the bangs clause contained in line item 11A was crucial to my own hair safety. But I was not particularly trustworthy with my own hair choices, so I tapped my friend in trust, to accompany me. I am no longer in that place in my life. I feel more resilient and more grounded. I am heartbroken in new and different ways. I have grown and changed, and so has Abby. I have been proud to watch her grow and change alongside her. So we looked at this covenant together. Some clauses we stand by 100%. Line item 16. Abby and Martha will love and support each other and trust that each interaction is grounded in love. Line item 17. Martha and Abby will tell each other if they have something stuck in their teeth. Both hold up excellently. But others would require some updates. The bangs clause, I would argue, outdated. But also a tender section about how we would handle between us shared pet care for a beloved animal that is no longer in our lives. So, Abby and I decided we would go on a board retreat of our friendship. The undemocratic and unelected board of this relationship being her and I. We made an agenda, perfectly detailed, and we re-covenanted our friendship. This gave us a chance to check in with one another deeply about the promises that we had made, to see if they were still working for one another. We decided that some things were evergreen and some required adjustment. I am a religious educator, and I'm reminded how at the beginning of our religious education classes each year, our children recovenant and make a new set of agreements for how they will be in class. This is because we are a new people each year, living in a new time. And we want to make sure that our agreements are robust and resilient enough to accompany us as we accompany one another in the world. Now, this process takes enormous trust. It takes trust in each other. It takes trust in who we are together and who we can be, and trust in the values that are at the heart of who we are. Our community here at First Church in Belmont has gone through this same process just last year. Together, this community looked at the covenant first adopted in 1900 and determined collectively, in democratic process, new language, what a faith and behavioral covenant might look like for this community at this time. You have heard what you chose to create together earlier in the service. Some words stand out to me: encourage, comfort, support, live our beliefs through action and care for our world. This is a covenant that asks something of each of us who agrees to live by it. I landed here among you after you had finished this process, and I was delighted to find not only a covenant with these kinds of words that ask something of me, but also to know that this is a process that you are willing to engage in, that this is hard, trust-based work of integrity that you want to do together. And this practice is inherent to this religious tradition of Unitarian Universalism. We are not and have never been a stagnant or unchanging faith. We do not believe that truth was revealed one time and can never be altered. Instead, we believe in something called ongoing revelation. We are learning new truths about ourselves, each other, and the world all the time. When each child is born, that child teaches us something new about the truth that we are experiencing in the world. And because of that, we are a people of transformation. We are a people capable of taking a look at ourselves, the language of the promises with how we use to describe one another and ourselves, to make sure that that language is aligned with who we know ourselves and the world to be, even as that changes, while we remain committed to that which is at the heart. This process that we have been in, our larger faith tradition is too. We have been in the process of looking at our shared covenant as expressed in our 7-8 principles to see if it needs updating. For many people, knowing and living by these 7 principles is an important part of being a Unitarian Universalist. I know it is for me. I remember when I was a kid at school and people would ask me questions about the church that I went to and how it could even be a church if it didn't have scripture. They would say, "What do you have if you don't have a text? How come everybody in your church has a different favorite spiritual book?" And I would say, the people in my church all believe different things. We are a diverse community. But we have these central principles that we have agreed to live by, and we don't do it perfectly, but we have agreed that we will covenant to act in alignment with our highest aspirations. And it felt good to me to have something. So when I heard that we were updating our principles and shifting them to a web of values instead of a numbered list, my first reaction was, God, we're taking away the one thing that we have. Who are we without it? What does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist if not this? I took a deep breath and I listened to my community members who talked to me about these language shifts. The new language places love at the center, threading through everything. Love as a spiritual discipline. And names our values as interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. Okay, these are things I can get behind. I sat with these values and I looked at the history of this tradition. We are a people of change. We always have been a people of adaptation and experimentation, a people who refuse to remain unchanging in a changing world, but adapt with the world and change the world when we live our beliefs through action and care for our world. That is so cool. In fact, the original principles were only 6 in 1961 when the Unitarians and Universalists merged together. A revision went on until 1984, and in 1995, due in part to movements of women and lay leaders in congregations who were working for environmental justice, we added a 7th. And in the last decade, leaders of color in our tradition have written an 8th, centered on racial justice and a commitment to anti-oppression. So even these 7 principles, as we know them, have not been static nor unchanged. And neither have we. It is actually a deeply Unitarian Universalist cultural and historical practice to look at our language and shift it as we need it to shift with us as we ground ourselves in our world in the value of love as a spiritual discipline. I am so proud to belong to a faith tradition which values that kind of transformation. Because I know that it is that transformation that leads us to creating the place that we are dreaming of going together. A place where we affirm the inherent value of every single person. A belief that was radical when our Universalist ancestors named it out loud, and that we remain so deeply committed to as it is under fire today. That every person, no matter who you are, no matter how you were born, no matter what you have done, you are worthy and loved beyond belief. It is the values inherent to our tradition and how we express them that leads us to travel to that place. And it takes some deep trust in our own ability to transform to get there. The language of the value of transformation states we adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform, to grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. The first time I read that language, I breathed a sigh of relief. Never complete and never perfect. That feels to me so restful and so generative. We don't have to be perfect. In fact, we never can be. We can never know everything there is to know because the truth is always being revealed to us, and that is a good thing. We are always adapting to what we now know. And this is an important value and practice to me at an institutional level, at a community level, and at a personal level within myself and my closest relationships. I can look at my beloved friend Abby and say, we are growing together. The way our friendship looks is not always how it has looked or how it will look. And that is okay. When we keep our central guiding values right at the center, it allows me to say to you, I trust you enough to allow you to transform. And me too. Because to be loved is to be transformed. When a small silver spaceship was so loved by a child that it flew around the room, transformed into something real, something that flies, that was love made real. I love this tradition so fiercely, and I trust that the stuff at the center of it is liberatory and that we will and do need it. And luckily, we love this tradition enough to allow it to change and to be changed by it. To transform it to fit who we are and what we need. I love Abby. I have been so transformed by loving her and being her friend, and I am glad that neither she nor I, nor our relationship, is static. Because we have loved one another, we have transformed each other and thus the world. It is one of the greatest gifts to trust the capacity of a person, even of faith, enough to allow it to transform. And maybe someday, with enough trust and enough transformation, you'll see me with straight across bangs, and you'll know that that too is love made real. Blessed be. Amen, and may it be so.